Hi there, hope you are doing fine. So this is Mr. Philip Kauma, the excellent biology tutor. In this tutorial video, we're looking at homeostasis. And I hope at the end of this tutorial video, you are going to understand. Yes, I know that you're going to understand everything that is going to be explained in this tutorial video. So if you haven't yet subscribed to the YouTube channel, subscribe, kindly subscribe and leave a like for this tutorial video. If possible, even a comment. Yeah, I would appreciate that. So at the end of this video, students will learn, or you will learn, types of homeostasis. We're going to learn the role of the skin in thermoregulation. Also going to learn the role of the liver in regulation of blood sugar, which is also known as glucose, and body temperature. We are also going to look at osmoregulation. So without wasting much of your time, let us start with the definition. What is homeostasis? So homeostasis is defined as the maintenance of a constant internal environment. There is an internal environment which has to be maintained in living organisms, and it is maintained by the process of homeostasis. Now there are a number of things that have to be maintained inside our bodies, like temperature. Temperature has to be maintained. Water levels, they have to be maintained. Excretory things that are not needed in the body they have to be removed. They have to be excreted. There is need of that clean internal environment, and that clean internal environment involves the removal of things that are not needed, the toxic things. So there is a maintenance of different things in our bodies, and they are all maintained under the process of homeostasis. Having defined homeostasis, let's look at the types of homeostasis. Alright, so homeostasis involves the regulation of body temperature. That's the first thing. Okay, body temperature is maintained, and it is maintained under the process of thermoregulation. Okay, homeostasis also involves the regulation of the amount of water in body fluids, water levels, and the amount of water in body fluids is maintained by the process of osmoregulation. Okay, and homeostasis also involves regulation of blood sugar, which is also known as glucose. And homeostasis also involves the removal of toxic metabolic wastes under the process of excretion. So let's start by looking at thermoregulation, which is the maintenance of body temperature. Alright, so thermoregulation, this is the maintenance of a constant body temperature. The temperature of the human body must be kept around 37 degrees Celsius, because this is the optimum temperature for its enzymes. The optimum temperature, it is the temperature at which an enzyme will work at its best. It will be very active at this temperature, known as the optimum temperature. And this optimum temperature differs with different mediums. But for a human body, the optimum temperature for enzyme activity is 37 degrees Celsius. Alright? Yeah, so if the temperature becomes less than that, if it is below 37 degrees Celsius, then the enzymes will become less active. Okay, but if the temperature is too high, then the enzymes will be denatured, they will be inactive. All right, now body temperature is normally generated by metabolic reactions that are taking place in the liver. Not only that, but when it's cold, you shiver, isn't it? When you're shivering, your muscles are vibrating, and as you are shivering, you are simply generating heat. So those are some of the ways in which body heat is generated. It is generated by metabolic reactions taking place in the liver, and by shivering, where your muscles are vibrating, and in the process generating heat. Now the body heat can be lost by different processes, like conduction. Your body is warm. When you sit on something cold, after some time you also start feeling cold, because your body has lost heat by the process of conduction. Now the regulation of temperature is mainly done by the skin. Okay, the skin is responsible for the regulation of temperature. Okay, so the regulation of body temperature is mainly carried out by the skin. Now let's look at this skin. Let's look at the structure of the skin. So I want you to pause the video, look at this diagram very well. Okay, look at each part of this diagram. We've got the hair here. This is the hair. We've got the conified layer, granular. This is the first layer, which is known as the conified layer. We've got the second layer, which is known as the granular layer. We've got the third layer, which is known as the Malpighian layer. And then here we've got the sweat pore. Okay, and then this is a sweat pore, and this is also known as the sweat duct. Okay, then we've got the sweat gland, we've got the hair erector muscle, and then there are two regions. We've got the epidermis, which is the upper region, then we've got the dermis, which is the middle, and then we've got the hypodermis. Then we've got the superficial blood vessels. These are the superficial blood vessels. Then we also have the shunt vessels. Okay, shunt vessels. So I want you to pause the video, look at it, look at this diagram very well. All right, I'm sure you've done that. Now let's look at the mechanism of thermoregulation by the skin. When it's cold, what happens? The skin reduces loss of heat in the following ways. So when it is cold, the following happens. Number one, erector muscles contract. When the erector muscles contract, they will pull the hair upright. Remember the hair I showed you? Yes. The erector hair traps a layer of air which insulates the skin against heat loss. The contraction of hair erector muscles leads to development of goosebumps on the skin in cold weather. So when it is cold, the erector muscles will contract, and when they contract, they will cause the hair to be upright, okay, when it's cold. And this erection of the muscles, it will cause goosebumps on the skin when it is cold. So that's the first thing that happens when you're feeling cold. That's how the skin reduces loss of heat. Okay, another way the skin reduces loss of heat is through this process known as vasoconstriction, which is the narrowing of skin arterioles. Remember the arteries? The arteries are the ones that transport blood from the heart to all parts of the body, and this is one part of the body, which is the skin. So vasoconstriction is the narrowing of those arteries, the skin arterioles. Okay, so this occurs to reduce the amount of blood passing through the skin. So they will make the arterioles to be narrow to reduce the amount of blood passing through the skin. This reduces heat loss because blood itself, it is hot according to the temperature within the body. So when the arteries are narrow, it will reduce the amount of blood passing through the skin, which in turn will reduce heat loss. Okay, shunt vessels will open. Okay, if I'm to take you back to the diagram, where are the shunt vessels? These are the shunt vessels. So instead of blood flowing through the superficial blood vessels, it will flow through the shunt vessels. Instead of it going like that, it will go like this. All right, so the shunt vessels will do what? They will open. All right, let's go back to where we were. So shunt vessels open, reducing the amount of blood passing through superficial vessels near the skin. This reduces heat loss. Sweat glands become less active or inactive. So sweat glands are the ones that produce sweat. Okay, so they become what? Less active or inactive to minimize loss of heat which might occur through sweating. All right, now what happens when it's when it is hot? What happens? So the skin promotes loss of heat in the following ways. So when it is hot, your body will try to maintain the same temperature. If the temperature goes up, it will try to maintain it back to 37 degrees Celsius. If the temperature is low, it will try to increase it so that it can be maintained at 37 degrees Celsius. So when it is hot, the skin promotes loss of heat in the following ways. Number one, erector muscles in this case will relax. Remember here, erector muscles contract. Here, the erector muscles relax, causing the hair to lie on the skin. Okay, This increases heat loss from the body by conduction, since no layer of still air forms. Now conduction is the loss of heat from one body to another. So when you sit on something cold, body will be your heat will be lost from your body to the thing you're sitting on. If it's cold, like if you're sitting on metal, yeah, so erector muscles will relax. Vasodilation, which is the widening of the skin arterioles. So this occurs, when this occurs, there will be an increase in the amount of blood passing through the skin. This allows more heat to be lost from the blood by conduction. Right. Then shunt vessels will close. Remember the diagram? Shunt vessels will close, allowing blood to pass through superficial vessels near the skin surface. This increases loss from the blood. This increases heat loss from the blood. And then sweat glands. So this is the last thing that happens, where the water in sweat absorbs. The water in sweat absorbs heat from the body in order to evaporate. Okay, so when it absorbs heat, it will evaporate the sweat out of the body, and that process will end up cooling the body. Now let's look at blood sugar regulation, which is another type of homeostasis. So the maintenance of a constant glucose levels in blood is carried out by the pancreas. The maintenance of temperature is carried out by what? The skin. But the maintenance of blood sugar regulation is carried out by the pancreas. Blood sugar is also known as glucose. That is another term, or that is another name for blood sugar, glucose. So the maintenance of a constant glucose levels in blood is carried out by the pancreas. It has cells known as islets of Langerhans. The pancreas has got cells known as islets of Langerhans, which produce hormones involved in blood sugar regulation. These cells are of two types, namely alpha cells and beta cells. Alpha cells secrete a hormone called glucagon, and beta cells secrete a hormone called insulin. Now let me explain. The pancreas has got cells, and these cells are known as islets of Langerhans. And there are two types of islets of Langerhans, which are alpha cells and beta cells. These two cells, they secrete hormones that help in the regulation of glucose. So the alpha cells, they secrete a hormone known as glucagon, while the beta cells, they secrete a hormone called insulin. So these are the hormones that play a role in maintaining sugar levels or glucose levels. Alright, now let's look at how this happens. When glucose levels are too high in blood, the pancreas secretes insulin, which lowers the levels of glucose. Okay, when glucose levels are too high, when there is too much sugar in the blood, the pancreas, through beta cells, it will secrete insulin, which lowers the levels of glucose. Now how? Lowers the levels of glucose in the following ways. Number one, it causes the cells of the liver and muscles to convert excess glucose to glycogen, which is stored in the liver and muscles. The body can only store about 400 grams of glycogen. About 100 grams is stored in the liver and 300 grams is stored in the muscles. So insulin, when it is secreted, it will cause, it is not the one converting, but it will cause the cells of the liver and the cells of the muscles to convert the excess glucose to glycogen. Okay, and the body can only store 400 grams of glycogen, of which 100 grams is stored by the liver and 300 grams is stored by the muscles. So insulin, it will cause the cells of the liver and the cells of the muscles to convert excess glucose to glycogen. That's the first thing. Second thing that insulin will do is that it will cause the cells of the adipose tissues to convert excess glucose to fats. Now the fats are stored under the skin and around delicate body organs such as the heart, liver, kidneys, and intestines, and the brain. Now if you pause the video at that diagram which I showed you of the skin, we've got the adipose tissue. All right, okay, we've got what? The adipose tissue. Now this adipose tissue is the one that will convert excess glucose to fats, and the fats are stored under the skin. And again, you're going to find fats in the walls of the heart, liver, kidneys, and intestines, and the brain. So that's another thing that insulin does. It will cause the cells of the adipose tissue to convert excess glucose to fats. Okay, insulin also enables body cells to absorb and use glucose from the blood. It will cause body cells to absorb glucose from the blood, okay, because glucose is also a necessity for some reactions that are taking place in the body. So the insulin will cause the body cells to absorb it and to use it, and obviously it's coming from the blood. All right, now what happens when glucose levels are too low? What happens when glucose levels are too low in the blood? The pancreas secretes another hormone through an alpha cell, and this hormone is known as glucagon, which will increase glucose. How does it do that? Number one, it will cause the cells of the liver and muscles to convert glycogen to glucose. Okay, when the sugar levels are too high, insulin will cause the cells of the liver and muscles to convert excess glucose to glycogen. But now it is glucagon which is causing the cells of the liver and muscles to convert glycogen to glucose. Okay, so yeah, when glucose levels are too low, glucagon will cause the cells of the liver and muscles to convert glycogen to glucose. It causes it will cause fat to be changed into glucose and may cause proteins to be modified. So the fats that were stored under the skin, that were converted from glucose to fats by the adipose tissues, will be converted back to fats, and the fats are stored under the skin. All right, osmoregulation, which is another type of homeostasis. So osmoregulation, this is the regulation of water levels in body fluids. Okay, it is the regulation of what? Water levels in body fluids. We looked at this even in excretion during the formation of urine. It is one of the stages. Okay, so it is the regulation of water levels in body fluids. Now osmoregulation takes place in the loop of Henle, okay, which is found in the nephron. Okay, if the body has little water in it, a hormone called antidiuretic hormone, ADH, also called vasopressin, is secreted by the pituitary gland in the brain. It causes water to be absorbed from the glomerula, filtrate into the surrounding cells. This results in the production of small volumes of concentrated urine. But if the body has enough water, ADH, which is antidiuretic hormone, is not secreted, and huge volumes of dilute urine are produced. So when your body has got little water, a hormone known as antidiuretic hormone will be secreted, and this hormone, it will influence the kidneys to reabsorb, okay, water from the kidneys into the surrounding cells. But when there is too much water, then this hormone will not be secreted. Okay, and this hormone is secreted by the pituitary gland, which is found in the brain. So osmoregulation is the regulation of water levels in body fluids. All right, okay, so that's the end of this tutorial video. I hope you've understood the topic of homeostasis. So an assignment to be sent, a quiz will be sent, and submit the assignment. Make sure that you submit the assignment, and make sure that you submit the quiz, and make sure to participate in the group. So this has been Mr. Philip Kauma, the excellent biology tutor. Stay blessed.